Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council. Mayor, Skip Henderson. City Manager, Isaiah Hughley. Pops Barnes, District 1. Glenn Davis, District 2. Bruce Huff, District 3. Evelyn Turner Pugh, Mayor Pro Tem and District 4. Charmaine Crabb, District 5. Gary Allen, District 6. Mimi Woodson, District 7. Walker Garrett, District 8. Judy Thomas, Post 9 at-large Counselor. John House, Post 10 at-large Counselor. Sandra Davis, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council.
Everybody to the December 3rd council meeting. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. I still got my wife called me stretchy pants on, so we're trying to survive the aftermath of eating 2 dinners. But we are glad you guys are with us. We're going to begin this evening as we begin all of our meetings, and that is by asking God's blessing. So I'm going to invite Pastor Danny Deeth from First Presbyterian Church to the podium. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate the invitation. Mayor Henderson foolishly earlier said, you can say whatever you want before you pray. So I've prepared a 45-minute biblical excursus on minor characters and poor decisions that they've made. So, or I could just shut up and pray. So why don't I do that? Let's pray together. God, we thank you that we can be here tonight. We are indeed still filled with the joys of Thanksgiving, still filled with the turkey and the dressing and the cranberry sauce and even that mystery yellow stuff that we felt obligated to take. But tonight, as we pivot toward the celebration of the coming of the Christ child, we would ask that you fill us with something more significant tonight, and that is the gift of your Spirit. Through your Spirit, Lord, fill us with your compassion, your peace, your hope, your joy, energy at the end of a long day, imagination, intelligence, and love. Help all of us gathered here to know that the conversations we have and the decisions we make matter. And in loving and caring for those in this community, we are loving and caring for you. So give us the courage to open ourselves to the prompting of your Spirit that your will might be done. We pray for that in the name of the risen Christ, this and every day. Amen.
Amen. Pastor, thank you so much. Please thank your congregation for sharing you with us this evening, and thank them for the work they do outside the church's walls. All right, next up we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance, and excited to welcome to the front of the room here the Cub Scouts of Pack 100. So y'all want to come up here, and Sandra, if you would, hand them the microphone. Oh, Josh has got it. Rest of you, please join me as we stand to our feet.
We're going to face the flag that way.
I pledge allegiance to my flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Outstanding. If you would, I'm going to let y'all give us your name, your age, and where you go to school.
Okay. My name is Evelyn. I am 10 years old, and I go to Eagle Ridge.
My name is Nikolai, and I'm 7, and I go to Lakewood Primary.
My name is Olivia Jillian Greco, and I go to Fort David Academy.
My name is Addison, and I'm 10 years old, and I go to Whitten Arts Academy.
My name is Anthony, and I'm 10 years old, and I go to Whitten Arts Academy.
My name is Sawyer Elliott, and I'm 9 years old, and I go to Diamond Magnet Elementary.
My name is John Michael, and I am 9 years old and go to Britt David Magnet Academy.
My name is Brooklyn Egg, and I'm 6, and I go to Reese Road.
My name's Simone, and I'm 8, and I go to Reese Road.
Well, outstanding. You guys did an amazing, amazing job. Give them one more round of applause.
My name is Jason Neal. I'm the Scoutmaster for Pack 100. It's a family pack. We meet at Edgewood Presbyterian Church on Thursdays. We teach our young scouts here to be good citizens, teach them good morals, and to do their best.
Well, thank you for pouring into these young people. Any family members here, by the way? We'll let them raise a hand or stand up for doing such a good job raising such great kids. Thank you. You guys will have to come back and do that again sometime if you don't mind. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Motion and a second to approve the minutes from November 12th. Is there any edits or any questions or concerns? Hearing none, if all those are in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, they are passed. Now, normally the first meeting of every month is a proclamation and resolution meeting. It's where we have an opportunity to kind of recognize people within our community that are doing some really pretty amazing things. So we've combined them this week because we've got sort of a short month with the holidays. So we're going to start by recognizing let's see, the first one. Let me find it. Oh, the Neighbors Helping Neighbors. I can't tell you how proud I am to be working with such incredible employees here in the Columbus Consolidated Government. The tornado that came through our area back in March did a lot of damage, a lot of property damage in Muskogee County, particularly up in the northwest section, but it really did some damage in Alabama, a little bit to the west of us coming up through Smith Station, and it knocked down some houses. And I talked with Mayor Copeland, and we thought, these guys are our neighbors, and we ought to do something to help. So I called the city manager, which is what I typically do when I need something, and as usual, he came through. He put the word out, and I mean, just within a matter of a day or two, we had more volunteers than we needed from the consolidated government to give of their time to go over to Smiths, Alabama, and help put this house together for a family that had lost everything. So we're going to recognize them tonight. All those that are here, if you would, please come forward, and I'm going to turn it over to Councilor Barnes. Councilor Barnes, you hit your light?
What are you going to do as far as the names? You want me to read them all out? Just run through the names? Okay. I got you.
And as Councilor Barnes hits your name, if you would, raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor and everyone here in the gallery, this is part of the very fine workers that we have in our city government who respond to appeals from the community. And so I have this proclamation. It's my privilege to read it. It says, whereas the employees of the Columbus Consolidated Government are its most valuable asset, and whereas it's important to recognize our employees who deal with unexpected circumstances with a sense of urgency and professionalism. And whereas Mayor Skip Henderson committed to Mayor F.L. Bubba Copeland of Smith Station, Alabama, that he would bring 20 volunteers to Smith Station on Tuesday, October the 22nd, 2019, to build a home for a tornado survivor. And whereas City Manager Isaiah Hughley solicited volunteers to accompany Mayor Henderson on this Neighbors Helping Neighbors mission. And whereas the home was sponsored by East Alabama Community Foundation and the City of Smith Station. This home is the 18th Fuller Center home built in Lee County since March 2019. And whereas East Alabama Community Foundation and the City of Smith Station scheduled the construction to be completed in 2 weeks, beginning on October the 21st and dedicated on November the 1st. And whereas on Tuesday, October the 22nd, 2019, employees from the Civic Center, City Manager's Office, Engineering, Fire Department, Inspections and Code, Mayor's Office, Metro, Parks and Recs, Public Works, and Sheriff's Department volunteered in this effort. And whereas the following employees have shown immense dedication and work ethic during this critical time. From the Civic Center, Jeremy Ackles. If I mispronounce your name, please forgive me. Deputy City Manager Emma McCabe. Engineering Department, Donna Newman, Ryan Pruitt. Fire Department, Ricky Shores. Inspections and Codes, Alan Brown and Philip Smith. Metro, Robert Sheridan. Parks and Recreation, Holly Browder. Tommy Grice or Grochet. Jared Owens, Jody Head. Darrell Scott. Public Works, Kyle McGee. Mike Bird, Chris Brown, Drew McCullers, Stephen Spraggins, Johnny Hart, Michelle Mang, Drell Short, Sheriff's Department, Jason Swales, John Thomas, Niketa C.A. Thank you for that. Did I come close? What is it now? Tell me. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Bobby Williams and Ernest Gunter. And whereas the mayor, council of Columbus, Georgia, and all citizens of Columbus, Georgia, recognize and appreciate the contributions made to the public good by these outstanding employees. Therefore, the Honorable Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, B.H. Skip Henderson, III, the Mayor of Columbus, does hereby proclaim Tuesday, December the 3rd, 2019, as Neighbors Helping Neighbors Smith Station Build Day in the city of Columbus, Georgia.
Any of y'all want to say anything? Why did that surprise me? Well, let me tell you, you guys said a lot by giving up your time to go over not only to another city but another state for no other reason than the people needed our help. And I can just say you guys are amazing. Thank you for reflecting so well on this community and on this city government. Mr. City Manager, do you want to say anything?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank you, Mayor, for reaching out to the mayor of Smith Station and for directing me to assemble a team. And so I put the call out and said, Mayor Skip Henderson is trying to do this, and we need 20 people. And within 24 hours, I had 31 people. And so want to just thank the employees of the Columbus Consolidated Government. They came together as a team. We had Neighbors, Helping Neighbors shirts. Thank Holly Browder for pulling all of that together. And we had a bus, and we went over as a team, and they completed the task. Job well done, so thank you.
And I will add, Richard Bishop from my office showed up and participated as well. And I will confess, because all these folks know it, I think I stayed just long enough to get my shirt and give a few lines on camera. I did carry a couple pieces of plywood, but then they told me, please get out of the way. But despite my presence for a short time, y'all did an amazing job. Y'all come around and let us shake your hand if you don't mind.
Thank you for your work. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for all of your kindness. Thank you for 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 your kindness.
Good to see you. How'd you all? Thank you. Well, they were small pieces.
You'll never see that there, but thank you for your kindness.
At least I was honest. I told him I didn't.
Ricky, thank you for your, appreciate you, Ricky.
No, listen, I'm just so glad to have you pops. That's why I let you. Rick. Thank you, sir. Thanks so much. Absolutely awesome employees. Thank y'all. Next, Councilor Crabb will recognize Ms. Dana Solomon. Dana, you'll come up. Good evening.
Hello. Hello. Thank you. I think this is neat that it's coming after Thanksgiving because we have a lot to thank you for. Whereas the U.S. has seen a 200% increase in prescription opioid overdose deaths since 2000, and whereas 125 million Americans reported misusing prescription pain relievers in the past year, 80% of heroin users reported using prescription opioids for non-medical reasons before beginning to use heroin, and Dana Solomon currently serves as the coordinator for the Felony Adult Drug Court in Columbus, Georgia. Whereas in 2018, Dana Solomon and her husband, Sheriff Deputy Tony Newton, were watching a show about the opioid epidemic in the United States. During their conversation, Dana discovered frontline law enforcement in Muskogee County does not have access to Narcan. Narcan is administered in order to reverse an overdose of heroin or other opioid painkillers. And whereas on October 1st, 2018, Dana Solomon and the Columbus Consolidated Government were awarded $500,000 for the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration to ensure all first responders are equipped with Narcan. And whereas Dana Solomon created the Porch, providing overdose reversal to Give Columbus Hope project, and whereas Dana Solomon provided training and Narcan to the Columbus Police Department, Muskogee County Sheriff's Office, Muskogee County Marshal's Office, Columbus Fire and EMS, Harris County Sheriff's Office, and Muskogee County Prison, totaling over 670 units of Narcan in the streets. And whereas Dana Solomon has been awarded over $8 million to the Felony Adult Drug Court since becoming the coordinator 8 years ago. And whereas Dana Solomon's goal is to have Narcan in every law enforcement officer's vehicle and to train families that are affected by drug addiction. And whereas all citizens of Columbus and employees of the Columbus Consolidated Government are urged to recognize and appreciate the contributions made to the public good by this outstanding employee. Now, therefore, Skip Henderson, Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, does hereby proclaim Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, as Dana Solomon Day. Congratulations.
I've accepted these on behalf of the Adult Drug Court before, but this is different. Thank you, Council. I really appreciate this. I'm honored. This project has definitely been something a little different, but the staff I have has been amazing, and we've been able to do some really cool things. I believe at this point we've given out over 700 units of Narcan in our community. We know that we've had multiple lives already saved by our frontline law enforcement making a choice to use that Narcan when needed, and that's just a really powerful story to tell. What you may not know is Columbus actually, thanks to our amazing IT department who was able to digitize our reporting form and make it something that our law enforcement officers could use quickly and efficiently without burdening them when they use their Narcan, We have now been contacted by LA County, California, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Oxford, Mississippi, and the federal government on multiple occasions to share our information and, more importantly, to help these other communities recreate what we're doing here, especially on the larger scale in their communities. So it's really exciting to see Columbus being the one to share that information and technology and really putting us up on the map for prevention. So it's been very exciting, and I appreciate you letting me do it. And I really appreciate my family, and all my work family is here tonight, so it's pretty exciting.
Get them to stand up. Let's embarrass them a little too. Yeah.
And there's who it's for.
But I tell you, Dana, thank you, and thank our IT folks as well for showing the kind of innovation that we're going to lean on going forward within this government to not only make things more efficient for the way we provide services, but for providing services that actually save lives. So we're very proud of you. Thank you. Come around. Let's shake your hand. Councilor Huff.
Dana. They did catch the mic before you got lost. My comment to her was I thanked her for not being bashful. She has spoken to me many times about many ideas, and she's not bashful about sending emails to make sure that we know what she's thinking. So thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Councilor Garrett has a proclamation celebrating Teresa Snellings for CPRP Day. Councilor Garrett, you want to hit your light? Come on up, Teresa. I know how you love the limelight. Good evening.
It's my pleasure to read this proclamation into the record. Whereas the Columbus Parks and Recreation Services Division Manager, Teresa Snellings, has achieved the Certified Park and Recreation Professional, CPRP, certification from the National Recreation and Parks Association, NRPA. And whereas NRPA was founded in 1965 and is the leading advocacy organization dedicated to the advancement of public parks and recreation opportunities. And whereas NRPA certification program is governed by the National Certification Board, and NRPA's Certified Parks and Recreational Professional Certification is one of the most sought-after certifications in the park and recreation profession. And whereas the CPRP certification is granted to individuals employed in the recreation, park resources, and leisure services profession who meet high standards of performance. And whereas CPRP certification criteria includes bachelor's degree, a minimum of 3 years full-time experience in the field of recreation, park resources, or leisure services, an extensive 150-question written examination of subjects including finance, human resources, programming and operations, and certification maintenance, including recertifying every 2 years by obtaining 2.0 continuing education units. And whereas Teresa Snellings is one of 5 certified park and recreation professionals in the Columbus Parks and Recreation Department. And whereas achieving the CPRP certification provides proof of Teresa Snellings' ability to meet or exceed national standards and demonstrates a new level of commitment to the parks and recreation field. And whereas the mayor and council extend deepest congratulations to Teresa Snellings on the occasion of this major professional accomplishment. Now therefore, B.H. Skip Henderson, Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, does hereby proclaim Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, as Teresa Snellings CPRP Day. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Teresa, you at least have to introduce the woo-woo chorus.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and Mr. Hughley. When I came aboard Park and Recreation, I have served in so many capacity. But as the years went by and the position changed, you always want something that you can live by and go by and say, look, I put my heart in it. So when several of my leadership attained their CPRP, that was just a goal for me to attain it as well, because Teresa don't let nobody outdo her. I just want to go to back about saying that. But I want to challenge some of my employees that are here with me tonight. This is not just for me. This is for anybody. This is for any of you guys that wants to go out and become professional. It's for you. We all will help you, and we just hope that you do that so you can go forward and say, I am professional. I know what I'm doing. Thank you.
Teresa, very proud of you. Councilor Bruce Huff.
You said it out of your own words tonight, so congratulations. I've always said to you, you're always making everyone around you better, including us on council. So I appreciate your hard work. I see you all the time, especially when you have those 18 to 20-hour days, you and the Parks and Rec staff and all the work that goes into everything that we do. So thank you again, and challenge everybody else, and like I say, continue to make us all better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Outstanding. Teresa, if you would come around and let us shake your hand. Y'all give her another hand. Next up is Mayor Pro Tem Allen with a proclamation recognizing Carson Revel. Where's Carson? There he is.
And Mayor, it's my privilege to publish this proclamation for Mr. Carson and his accomplishments. Whereas the Columbus Parks and Recreation Athletic Division Manager, Carson Revel, has achieved the Certified Park and Recreation Professional certification from the National Recreation and Parks Association. And whereas NRPA was founded in 1965 and is the leading advocacy organization dedicated to the advancement of public parks and recreation opportunities, and whereas NRPA certification program is governed by the National Certification Board, and NRPA Certified Parks and Recreation Professional Certification is one of the most sought-after certifications in the park and recreation profession. Whereas the CPRP certification is granted to individuals employed in the recreation, park resources, and leisure services profession who meet high standards of performance. And whereas, listen to the qualifications here, the criteria for certification. Whereas CPRP certification criteria includes bachelor's degree, minimum of 3 years full-time experience in the field of recreation, park resources, and leisure services, an extensive 150-question written examination of subjects including finance, human resources, programming, and operations, and certification maintenance includes recertifying every 2 years by obtaining 2 continuing education units. Whereas Carson Revel is one of the 5 certified public recreation professionals in the Columbus Parks and Recreation Department. And whereas achieving the CPRP certification provides proof of Carson Revel's ability to meet or exceed national standards and demonstrates a new level of commitment to the parks and recreation field. Whereas the Mayor and Council extend deepest congratulations to Carson Revel on the occasion of this major professional accomplishment. Now, therefore, our Mayor, Skip Henderson of Columbus, Georgia, does hereby proclaim Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, as Carson Reveal CPRP Day.
Congratulations, Carson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council, for this huge honor. And I look forward to continuing to serve the citizens of our community through the Parks and Recreation Department. Like Teresa said, we're all competitive in our department especially. So once we put our mind to doing something, then we're going to make sure we get done. And it was tough. It was hard work, lots of studying, but thankful it's over. But like I said, looking forward to continue to serve the community here in Columbus.
I'm just so proud of y'all for the work you put in to try to get that designation. I feel old. I've known Carson forever through church league softball, and Teresa used to run me out of the gym at Coburn. So congratulations. Carson, if you would come around, let us thank you. All right, and next up from Parks and Recreation as well, Shahara Thrasher. If she'd come forward, and Valerie, Councilor Thompson.
I, too, am honored to read this proclamation to Shahara because she's a member of my church. So we're very proud of her. And it reads, whereas the Columbus Parks and Recreation Therapeutic Recreation Program Manager, Shahara Thrasher, has achieved the Certified Park and Recreation Professional certification from the National Recreation and Parks Association. And whereas NRPA was founded in 1965 and is the leading advocacy organization dedicated to the advancement of public parks and recreation opportunities. And whereas NRPA certification program is governed by the National Certification Board, and NRPA's Certified Parks and Recreation Professional certification is one of the most sought-after certifications in the park and recreation profession. And whereas the CPRP certification is granted to individuals employed in the recreation, park, resource, and leisure services profession who meet high standards of performance. And whereas CPRP certification criteria includes bachelor's degree, minimum of 3 years full-time experience in the field of recreation, park resources or leisure services, an extensive 150-question written examination of subjects, including finance, human resources, programming, and operation, and certification maintenance include recertifying every 2 years by obtaining 2.0 continuing education units. And whereas Shahara Thrasher is one of 5 certified park and recreation professionals in the Columbus Park and Recreation Department, and whereas achieving the CPRP certification provides proof of Shahara Thrasher's ability to meet or exceed national standards and demonstrate a new level of commitment to the parks and recreation field, and whereas the Mayor and City Council extend deepest congratulations to Shahara Thrasher on the occasion of this major professional accomplishment. Now, therefore, our Mayor, Skip Henderson of Columbus, Georgia, hereby proclaim Tuesday, December the 3rd, 2019, as Shahara Thrasher CPRP Day.
You both, congratulations on bringing the biggest cheering section.
I did. That's my whole crew back there. Thank you, Pastor Thompson. Thank you, Mayor Skip Henderson and City Council. Thank you, Holly and Becky, for allowing us to take the CPRP. It's not a cheap test, and so I know I definitely appreciate you guys. helping us with our leadership and development, training and development, so I appreciate that. And that's it.
Well, Shahar, we're very, very proud of you. The program that you work within is probably one of the most vital programs we have in this community.
Thank
I
you.
thank you for the professional way that you handle it.
Thank
So
you.
come around, let us thank you again, please. All right, and we are not quite through with our Parks and Recreation Department just yet. Next is Councilor House, and this is in recognition of Georgia Recreation and Parks Association Recognition Day. So if we could get Kathy Fluellen, Shahara Thrasher, Teresa Snellings, Holly Browder, and Becky Glisson to come forward, please. And bring anybody else you want. Bring the whole crew. We also, by the way, I must say, we're pleased to have the president of the Georgia Recreation Parks Association, Mr. Craig Potter, here with us this evening. So we're grateful to have you in Columbus, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Well, Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to read this proclamation for this great group that's already received, as you noted, a bunch of recognition, but certainly well-deserved because they do great things for us every day. Whereas on November the 6th, 2019, the following awards and honors were received at the Georgia Recreation and Parks Association State Banquet, having been selected from among 159 counties in the state. And whereas Kathy Fluellen received the Volunteer Award for the entire state of Georgia for her continued support of Fluellen Recreation Center. And whereas Becky Glisson and Teresa Snellings graduated from the GRPA Leadership 2 and Holly Browder graduated from the GRPA Leadership Beyond. And whereas Holly Browder, Department Director, was installed as the Vice President of the Georgia Recreation and Parks Association, and Becky Glisson, Department Deputy Director, was elected Administrators Network Chair-elect. And whereas Holly Browder, Department Director, won the Administrators Network Distinguished Professional Award, and whereas Shahara Thrasher won the Program of the Year Award for her Therapeutic Removing Barriers initiative. And whereas Becky Glisson, Deputy Director, was named as the Distinguished Professional of the Year for the entire state of Georgia. And whereas the Mayor and City Council of Columbus, Georgia, extend deepest congratulations to the Parks and Recreation Department on the occasion of this major professional accomplishment. Now, therefore, B.H. Skip Henderson, Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, does hereby proclaim Tuesday, December the 3rd, 2019, as Georgia Recreation and Parks Association Recognition Day.
Ollie?
I'm going to take just a moment and ask our state president, Mr. Craig Potter, is here tonight to present. Unfortunately, Ms. Fluellen was unable to attend, but the state award that she won is a very big deal in our world for Parks and Recreation, so we'd asked Mr. Potter to come forward. So on Ms. Fluellen's behalf, Mr. Selden, the Recreation Center Director at Fluellen, is going to receive the honor. So I'll ask Mr. Potter to come forward at this time.
Thank you, Holly. Good evening, Mayor Henderson. Good evening. City Council, City Manager Hughley. As Holly said, I'm here to present a very special award to one of your valued citizens, Ms. Kathy Fluellen. She has been chosen, as was stated, as the State Volunteer of the Year. No matter what rec department you work in, we would never succeed without our volunteers, and that's the honest God truth. Locally, Ms. Llewellyn has always stepped up as a volunteer and has never failed to help where was needed, especially at the Llewellyn Recreation Center, which was named after her son, Michael. Ms. Llewellyn has assisted in making the Recreation Center great since its inception in 1995. Every year, she has provided hundreds of book bags and school supplies to students and provided hundreds of kids with bicycles for Christmas at the annual Christmas event. In addition to these events, she also contributes games, food, supplies, and support for the center year-round. She has a great relationship with the staff and the members in the community and has always gone above and beyond for her department. With her countless volunteer hours and generous donations, she is definitely an asset to your community, and I'm honored to present her tonight with the 2019 GRPA State Volunteer of the Year Award. And as Ms. Barber said, thank you.
And Mr. Potter, I had the pleasure of being at that banquet and listening to some of the stories and some of the things that have been accomplished throughout the state and throughout this region. And I got to tell you, we're always in awe of our folks, but you, sir, are the head of a very, very professional organization. And we thank you for what you do around the state, and we really thank Holly and her folks for what they do here in Columbus. So thank you for joining us tonight. Holly?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And we appreciate you joining us that night that was our district banquet at which Ms. Llewellyn was recognized. Ms. Ann Truitt, who I believe is here tonight, was also recognized as an award winner for our district and for our department, as well as several others. And also I'd like to recognize, we have several of our participants here tonight with Ms. Thrasher. I don't know if she wants to recognize them by name or by group, but we certainly wanted to recognize them in joining us tonight because they were, of course, selected as our district award winner for our program that they participate in, as well as it was also selected on the state level. And then it was also recognized nationally for the program. And Shahar, do you want to recognize your folks really quickly? Nothing like on the spot?
I'm going to let them come up and introduce themselves. And just name. Melina.
My name's Rebecca. See you, Anthony. My mom is Ruth.
Cecilia Anthony, her mother's Ruth.
April Holloway.
My name is Grant Watson. My name's Michael Boo.
My name's Deandra Thornton. Miss Carolyn.
I'm Carolyn Evans, the administrative assistant at the best program ever, Therapeutic Recreation. Woo-hoo! We ride.
Angie Sheehan, and I'm a volunteer. I retired so I can volunteer and be with this wonderful group to work with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, we just wanted to make mention of their group because their program is called Removing Barriers, and it's very important to us. It's very important to our community, and as you can see, many other people, not just locally, statewide, but also nationally, have recognized the fact that this is a very great, very good program, very well done by the staff, and so just wanted to say thank you for that.
Very proud of all of you. If you would, all of you kind of come through and let us shake your hand. Thank you for what you do. Holly, you too.
You be first.
Hello, Rebecca. Now, what's her? Okay.
I'll be good night, Al.
That's right.
Congratulations.
See you. See you. Good to see you.
Congratulations. Hey.
Thank you for
Congratulations, sir. Good to see you, man. All right? Good to see you.
Y'all are not shy people. Come on. Y'all are not shy people.
Good to see you again. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Dave. Good to see you. Thank you. We did. Hey, good to see you. Congratulations. Thank you so much. The only thing I have is these three others right here. This is, huh? I think that's it. Sorry, I'll get them. Who do I look? Who's supposed to get them? I'm sorry. We'll check on it. Finally is Counselor Thomas with a recognition of, anybody want to guess? Parks and Recreation. Counselor.
Come back to the podium, and this is certainly, after all that we've seen tonight, you can understand this one real easily. Whereas on October 25th, 2019, the City of Columbus Parks and Rec Department received national accreditation from the Commission for Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies, or CAPRA. This makes Columbus Parks and Recreation one of only 178 agencies in the country to receive this national accreditation. And whereas in addition to being one of 178 accredited parks and recreation agencies, the City of Columbus is now distinguished as one of only 9 government agencies in the state of Georgia to receive CAPRA accreditation. And whereas the process of reaccreditation is extensive and took approximately 5 years to accomplish, including the initial application and a detailed self-assessment report, followed by a visit to the City of Columbus by a team of experienced park and recreation professionals. And whereas the National CAPRA accreditation process requires park and recreation agencies to respond to 10 categories that detail 151 standards representing elements of effective and efficient park and recreation management and operation. And whereas to become accredited, agencies must comply with 37 mandatory standards, which are considered fundamental to a quality operation. The agency must also comply with no less than 85% of the remaining 114 standards in order to earn accreditation. And whereas the Columbus Parks and Recreation Department scored 100% by meeting all standards in all 10 categories. Whereas Accreditation Chair Becky Glisson and Director of Parks and Recreation Holly Browder accepted the National Accreditation Award for the City of Columbus during the annual CAPRA ceremony on October 25th, 2019 in Baltimore, Maryland. Now therefore, B.H. Skip Henderson, Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, does hereby proclaim Tuesday, December the 3rd, 2019 as Accreditation Recreation Day for Columbus Parks and Recreation. Congratulations.
I need to call up one quick person really quick. Becky, come here for a second. Becky's responsible majorly for this recognition tonight, the 151 standards. I serve on the CAPRA Commission, which is the nationwide National Commission for Accreditation. And I can tell you that there are a lot of agencies that we go through each year, a lot of states, a lot of counties that don't stand up to us as a city, as a community, and as a department. But the work that goes into the 5 years is a credit to Becky. She's saved our agency roughly about $40,000 in the work that was done for us to acquire the reaccreditation. Without her, we would not have been successful, I can promise you, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience to do the work that it takes to put into this much information. We have 2 bookcases. If you're ever in our office for a meeting, you'll see them. We have 2 bookcases in our office that back up all of our documentation and show everything that has to be maintained, records, things that the city doesn't even require us to keep. We have to also thank other departments across the city that we reached out to as well. But Becky is the one to thank for our accreditation and for the work that's been done. And I say that because she was the leader, she's our chairperson and our accreditation chair that does that. But earlier I asked all our departments to stand up because that's how we got where we are. Not she or I, but all these folks that came up earlier and even our participants. They're the ones who make us the department that we are in the community that supports us. So thank you on behalf of all of us. We appreciate it.
Well, come around then, sir. We know better than to try to wait for Becky to say something. I'll check on this. I'm sorry. Well, it seems like tonight's been about celebrating how fortunate we are to be in business with these amazing employees. So thank all of you for what you do each and every day to serve the citizens of Columbus, Georgia. Got a couple of resolutions left, and both of those are going to be read by Councilor Crabb.
Thank you, Mayor. Rusty.
First one is for Rusty Abernathy. Rusty, would you come forward? Hey, Rusty.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me this. Whereas in 2004, Rusty Abernathy was looking for a way to give back to the children of Columbus. He chose the first Saturday in December to hold his celebration. The first year, 50 children came to sit on Santa's lap and get a professional picture taken at no charge. Whereas each year, the children are given free toys, hot dogs, and juice boxes, Whereas in 2018, over 400 children were able to talk to Santa and have their pictures taken with him, and they expect even more this year. Whereas Mr. Abernathy will bring Santa Claus on December 7th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. to Rusty's Floor Covering at 4319 Meritus Drive, Columbus, Georgia. Whereas there is never a charge or any expectation of purchase, he serves from his heart and gives back to all the many blessings that he has experienced. And whereas this council wishes to recognize Mr. Rusty Abernathy for his service to the children of Columbus, Georgia. Now therefore, the Council of Columbus, Georgia hereby resolves, we hereby commend Rusty Abernathy for his service to our community. Columbus is proud of his accomplishments, and we wish him continued success in the future. Let a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Mr. Rusty Abernathy. So I make a motion for us to...
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It is unanimous.
Thank you. Thank y'all, I appreciate it.
Rusty, you want to say something?
I'd just like to thank y'all, and I just do it. I mean, I never really graduated from high school. I started my own business. Nobody's ever helped me, and I just wanted to figure out a way to give back. And if it wasn't for all my customers and everything, you know, and the people of Columbus, that's who makes it happen. It ain't me and all the people that work for me. I want to thank them because they're really the ones. I just got the name, that's all. They're really the ones, all the people in Columbus and everything, and I'd really like to thank them.
Well, I tell you what, I think this time of year it'd be appropriate to say there really is a Santa Claus. His name's Rusty.
Well, I appreciate that.
So
Thank you so
for
much.
what you do for the people of this
Well,
community.
I'm going to keep on doing it as long as I'm alive, and I'll never leave Columbus because I was here since I was 1 year old, and I'm 55, and I could get $1 million tomorrow, and I wouldn't leave.
Well, God bless
That's
you.
how much
Come on,
I love it.
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. You know, I love you too. Thank y'all. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you for your, I'm coming to see Santa.
Okay, y'all come. Everybody's invited. Everybody's invited. We never turn nobody down. Hey, thank you. It's good to see you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. I'll see y'all later. Y'all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too. Next up, Mr. Chris Giles. And Mr. Giles, if you have anybody you want to bring to the podium with you, you're welcome to. Wise decision.
Mark Danny? Thank you, Mayor. Hello.
Hello.
Whereas Mr. Giles joined the Columbus Board of Realtors, Georgia Association of Realtors, and National Association of Realtors in 1991 and served as the 2019 president of the Georgia Association of Realtors. Whereas Chris was the Realtor of the Year for the Columbus Board of Realtors in 2009 and 2019. Whereas in 2009, he bought a RE/MAX Champions franchise and opened RE/MAX Champions with his business partner, Danny Emberson, who is also present here today. Whereas in 2007, he became the president of the Columbus Board of Realtors after having served for 1 year as the president-elect. Whereas Chris has served on many Columbus Board of Realtors committees, including Strategic Planning and Georgia Association of Realtors Political Action Committee. He chaired the Property Management Nominating Committee, $1 Million, and Circle of Excellence committees. He has served as a local and a state director. Whereas he currently serves as the National Association Board of Directors, is on the MLS and broker involvement committees, and is the federal political coordinator for Congressman Westmoreland and Bishop. Whereas he has served on several Georgia Association of Realtors committees, including Brokers Council, Strategic Planning, State and Local Government Affairs, and chaired the Grievance Committee. He has served as Vice President of Member and Public Services, Professional Development, Government Affairs, and Administration and Operations. Whereas Chris and Sharon Giles have 2 children and 5 grandchildren, and whereas the accomplishments of Chris Giles are worthy of special recognition by the council. Now, therefore, the Council of Columbus, Georgia hereby resolves, we hereby commend and congratulate Chris Giles for his achievements in his professional career and his many civic activities. Columbus is proud of his accomplishments, and we wish him continued success in the future. Let a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Chris Giles. I ask that we accept this. I make a motion that we accept this resolution.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Congratulations.
Mr. Giles, do you have some comments?
Yes, I would just like to say that it certainly this year is serving as the president of the Georgia Association of Realtors, and our 42,000 members. I have tried to represent this city and what we have to offer as well as I could as I've traveled around the state. Was in McDonough, Georgia, doing an installation earlier today. We've had several past presidents. The most recent was 2001, was Barbara Kennan, but I'm going to make Skip feel even older tonight because, and I believe it was 1990, prior to Barbara, that was the most recent president that the Columbus Realtors had had, and that was Skip's father, Barry Henderson. And I feel like sometimes I'm standing on the shoulders of giants because Barry and Barbara certainly led the way and showed me how we should be doing this, and so I appreciate. I'm going to make him even feel worse. Skip was involved in teaching me pre-license when I got my license in 1991. So
See,
thank you very
despite
much.
that, look how well you've done.
Yeah, so, and I appreciate this honor. Thank you very much. It's been an honor to serve the Georgia Realtors this year.
Chris, let me
And
tell you,
certainly-
on behalf of the community, you have represented Columbus well. Your dedication to professionalism is absolutely set the bar so high that I don't think many others will ever be able to attain it. So thank you for the way that you have represented our community. And Sharon, I remember way back in 1990, what a burden it puts on the spouse as he is traveling the state of Georgia, trying to make sure he does all the installations for all the boards. It's a tough job you had. Thank you for the way you did your job as well. So if you would you both come around, let us shake your hand. Thank you.
Something that wasn't included in that resolution is he has to put up with me on a daily basis.
Yeah, I didn't know they give combat pay in real estate, but that's right. That is, Chris has been Charmaine's broker for a number of years. Thank you again, Chris, for all that you've done. All right, I tell you, we're going to thank all of you for bearing with us as we recognize some of these amazing people that live in our community. We need to go into an executive session, but we're going to kind of run through the second readings first. And while we're in executive session, of course, we'll have to clear the chambers and call the public back once we have completed our deliberations. So I'm going to turn this over to the city attorney and let him walk us through the second readings. Hit your button.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We'll run through these items we need to vote on quickly. First one up is the Warm Springs Road zoning. Councilor Crabb has a motion to amend this to add a buffer condition. You should have it around the table as a draft. Councilor, you want to make that motion?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, you're waiting on me, aren't you? There you go.
I would like to make the motion that a condition of a 50-foot undisturbed natural buffer shall be maintained on the east property line. This is in line with the information that they gave us during all the preliminary process.
All right, is that a motion to add that?
To amend.
Okay, there's a motion second to make the amendment as stated by the councilor. Any questions or any concerns from council? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, you can vote on the entire amendments now, ordinance now as amended.
All right. Second. Motion second to approve the amended ordinance. Any discussion? Bruce, you want to cue it? Councilors, please register your votes.
All right.
Is it me that's not?
And that passes?
Passes. Next item up for a vote, Mayor, is 8063 Veterans Parkway.
Hang on just a second, we're missing
Are we
one.
missing someone on that?
There it is.
Okay.
Registered. Okay.
This is 8063 Veterans Parkway. It's the White Oak Grove petition. It's ready for action.
Move approval.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion to the motion? If not, please cue it, Bruce, and Councilor, you can register your votes, please.
That's everybody. That passes. Next item is the roadways approved for use of radar speed detection devices, ready for adoption.
There's a motion and a second to approve item 3. Any discussion? Please cue it. Councilors, you can vote. One more. Still missing one. There we go.
Okay.
That's approved.
Now, if you would, skip down to number 8 while the Waterworks folks are here, Mayor. This is the follow-up resolution on the issuance of $50,670,000 in water sewerage taxable refunding revenue bonds. It's ready for adoption.
Move approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please register your votes. And that's approved.
Okay. Thank y'all for being here again, Mr. Davis.
All right.
The next item we want to do is an early executive session, Mayor, on real estate acquisition, litigation, and personnel.
All right, is there a motion to go into executive session? Is there a second? Yes, ma'am.
I wonder if we could do the first reading for item number 4 before we go into executive session. I know that our Civic Center manager is here, and rather than have her wait until after executive session, could we do the first reading on that one?
On item 4 for the
The first reading under the,
okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll call that up.
Okay.
I know Ms. now she's Ms. Tillery, right? Ms. Henderson, I want to say. Item 4 is an ordinance amending Chapter 14 to remove 14-60.3 from the code, which prohibits tattooing on Sunday or Sabbath days, one of the holdover blue laws from many years ago. Is there any discussion on that? It's been in the news, and any questions?
Councilor Garrett.
I was just going to briefly explain why. We've got a major convention coming to the Trade Center, excuse me, and Haley Tillery knows they want to do tattoos on a Sunday, and we have not been enforcing this law. So this is really, this is just a change in antiquated law, and it's going to help secure some very major business. So I'd ask for your support.
Very good. Any other questions?
Okay, we'll vote on that next week. Appreciate it, Ms. Tillery. See you next week at the 9 o'clock meeting. Mayor, then we can do the executive session now.
All right, we had a motion and a second, I believe, to go into executive session. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're in executive session. We need to clear the chambers. All right, thank you for your patience. We have been in executive session discussing real estate acquisition, litigation, and personnel matters, and there were no votes taken. One announcement, I think, Mr. City Attorney.
Okay, I know there are people here tonight with respect to the clerk's agenda and appointments of airport commissioners and the Board of Elections officers, but those two appointment matters are going to be delayed until January, if y'all don't mind coming back then. It'll be second Tuesday in January.
14th.
Be our first regular meeting at 9 a.m.
Right.
So, thank y'all for being here.
Does that wrap up your agenda, sir?
No, sir. Not,
you sure?
Not quite. We're close.
Didn't mean to sound antsy.
We could go back at the request of the Superior Court Clerk, Ms. Danielle Forte. We would ask that item 5 be tabled, and she will be working with administration on her issues.
Second.
Motion second to table indefinitely. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
All right. We appreciate the clerk doing that. The item 6 is the 18-2.2 of the city code, going to be replaced on temporary street closings. This is simplify the procedure. The clerk of council's been involved with it, and if there are any questions?
You may want to outline the differences, just so the public knows.
Yeah, let's see. The notice is going to be posted whenever there's a temporary street closing. Notice will be posted on the official website of the consolidated government at least 3 days prior to closing. This will be in lieu of advertisement which is in the paper, which has steadily increased on the cost over the years. The chief of police can then approve the application. If the application is denied, the applicant may, within 15 days of denial, ask for an appeal to this council, and that's the procedure that's been set out, and then council will take final action if there was a denial.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We'll bring that back for a vote. The next item is the reconciliation for the FY19 budget. I know our finance staff is here. Do you want to comment on that, Ms. Alexander?
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. City Manager, Mr. City Attorney. As the City Attorney mentioned, this is just the final reconciliation for our FY19 budget. We are in the very final stages of the conclusion of our FY19 audit. The plan would be to come before council in January to present any audit findings that were discovered as part of our FY19 audit. But again, this is just adjusting the budget to account for, the various changes that happened throughout the fiscal year after the mid-year amendment. So it's just really a cleanup a cleanup budget amendment, and
Mr. Mayor, the finance director showed me a preliminary fund balance number, and I'd like to add that on the agenda for next week, because we've not talked to you or briefed you, and so I'd rather do an update on fund balance next week.
Okay.
so,
All right.
are there any
Any
questions?
questions of the finance director? Doesn't appear to be any.
All right.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
well, go ahead with the next item. I was just about to say that we do have our bond counsel for the Columbus Building Authority, as well as the city and our financial advisors. There is a very short presentation that Mr. Doug Gephardt from Davenport and Company
Council, I'm
would
sorry,
like
let
to
me interrupt
give
for just a second.
before-
Councilor Thomas.
Before we, excuse me, before we leave the budget piece, I had requested a couple of meetings ago that we schedule a mid-budget meeting separate from council meetings to go through a number of issues. And I don't know if anybody has looked into that. There are 5 things that I would like to see on that budget meeting, and I'd like to have it in January. I'd like to have a mid-year budget review, as you typically do for us. That would be one of the items there. One of the items that I would like to see us talk about or to provide opportunity for is if our department heads have issues that they want to bring to our attention. For example, the clerk of Superior Court, that might be a place for that to come back to us. It might also be a place if a department head is looking forward and, our resolution that says you have to come and get permission if you're going over your budget, if there are any of those kinds of issues, just to give the department heads that opportunity. The third thing that I would like for us to include in that meeting is a comprehensive discussion and explanation of the other local option sales tax. That has been in place now for 11 years, and there are a number of people on council who were not here when we did that. I'd also believe this is going to be one of those items that will be a topic of conversation in the community when we go out for the SPLOS. And so I'd really like for us to have a real comprehensive look at how the OLOS functions, how it's funded, and all of those kinds of things. The audit that you just mentioned, that might be a topic that would go into that meeting. And then the last thing that I would like for us to do, we said during the budget hearings in last May that we were going to put together a salary study committee. And it's now half of the year and we've not done that. I'd like for us to have that conversation. I'd like for that study committee to be put together. As I was looking at this, I can't recall if the UGA, and Mr. City Manager, you can probably help me with this, if the UGA study was adopted in 2001, or wasn't it around that?
It's 2006. Yes.
So it's been 13 years since we did that. And to have this salary committee take a look at that question, is it time for another one? I don't know the answer to that at this point, but that would be one of the issues that would come forward. I would like to see this meeting be separate and apart from a regular council meeting, either the third Thursday of January or depending on the schedule for the city manager and the mayor's office and the finance department, when you could get that put together. I would like for it to be a regular council meeting, a called meeting, so that we can take action if we need to do that, and that it not just be an informational meeting. But again, I would make the request that this be done in January so that we can get some of these issues on the budget dealt with. I think that we are in a pretty good position right now with our budget, and I think the more information that council has on this, the better we can talk with our constituents about it. So, Mr. Mayor, with that, I would make that request again.
We'll get that done. That's on me for not setting that up. And I'll tell you that we'll be happy to try to provide information and take input from council. For example, the Salary Study Committee, it's my intention to bring forward a request for a pay study anyway. So, if the committee wants to discuss that, that's fine. I'll probably still bring it forward and let y'all either take it out or leave it in at your discretion. But there are a number of these things that we can do. We can set up an opportunity.
And there may be other things that staff wants to bring to us. I'm not sure exactly where, for example, and this is strictly a for example, I'm not proposing this, but I'm not sure where we will be in our SPLOS. We're going back out to the community in February. It may be that we need a presentation to council on those SPLOS issues, and this would be perhaps a time to do it. And there may be other issues that the staff, the finance staff and the city manager's staff and the mayor's office wants to have some conversation about.
Well, yes, we had planned to come back in January, and I'm glad you put a little texture to it, because we had planned to come back at a city council meeting. I think I mentioned the second
Yes, you did.
Tuesday, but we've got your outline of things, and if other council members have some other things to add to it, we'll take those, but we can certainly do a special meeting. I do know that we have a work session in January, and typically we have the budget kickoff in January, the budget, and I'd actually ask staff to outline all of that for that January meeting, but certainly we can do a special day and all of the topics that you've shared.
And I just think that so many times when we do this at a regular meeting, by the time we get to it, we're worn out, and or at least I'm worn out. Sure. Yeah, especially if it's an evening meeting. Yeah. But whatever whatever you think we need to include, these items I'd like for us to include. And if there are others, certainly it would be appropriate to bring those.
And we can poll the council, mayor and council, for a date for that meeting to see what works best with your schedules.
And then we would need to come back with a, with a motion to set the meeting in order for it to be a meeting where we could conduct business. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if there are other items to add to that list, then let us know.
Councilor Davis?
Mr. City Manager, along with that, I know you said the kickoff of the budget meetings. Is it routine to, when the administration does that, the executive administration does that with all the directors, do you talk about the budgetary ordinance requirements and some of the procedures and the process and the processes and how all this works and what we tend to try to go back and reinforce every year? Is that presented to everybody so everybody's on the same page there?
Well, it has not been, but you just outlined what I've asked her to do.
Well, we do provide a timeline.
Yeah, a timeline.
And outlining that process.
But what I've asked her to do is we'll go to the charter, and she's going to pull out what the city manager's responsibilities are, what the mayor's responsibilities, what council's responsibilities, and then she's going to go to that section in the back about constitutional officers and how that process works, and we'll outline all of that. And so I've already given her
Well, and I commend you on that. I know the administration has really done a great job on best practices and continues to reinforce that. And I think it makes a difference. And Finance Department's been doing a good job, but I think I'm specifically talking about the budgetary ordinance requirements that we're all, that's policy that we're all
1389. We're going to
governed under.
Yeah, she's going to outline those things.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
You were going to invite.
I was just introducing Mr. Doug Gephardt from Davenport and Company. The Building Authority met earlier this afternoon, and obviously they ratified the approval of this resolution contingent upon council's approval. So nothing solid unless approved by council. But I would like for Mr. Gephardt to share with council what was shared with the Building Authority earlier this afternoon.
Thank you, Angelica. Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. Pleasure to be in front of you again today. I know we were just recently before you with the great results of the refinancing. Unfortunately, today I'm not here to tell you saved $13 million again, but I do have great results to present. We went out to bid. I'll get on the next page. But if you would, in front of the oh, there we go. We sent out a bid in the interest of timeline and the size and scope of the transaction. Rather than going to the public market again, we decided to go forward with the bank loan. And we sent out an RFP to local, regional, and national lending institutions. We got 7 bids back. We asked for both 15 and 20-year rates. In today's market, banks aren't necessarily wanting to give out 20 years, so we asked for 15-year rates just in case. But we were pleased to report back that we got 7 proposals, and you can see that we highlighted in blue that Synovus really stepped up to the plate and provided the lowest interest rate option, offering a 20-year rate at a fixed rate at 2.07%. Flipping to page 2, it's just a brief summary of the top proposal. Synovus is providing for the full $5 million loan that we requested, fixed for 20 years at a 2.7%. And the best thing about it is that while 2.07, not many people think we can refinance that. You never know where interest rates are going. But the proposal does allow for prepayment at any time without any penalty. They're charging no fees. In fact, Synovus's 20-year interest rate was lower than all the other proposals' 15-year interest rate. So they really stepped up to the plate and provided Columbus with a great deal. The estimated debt service on the loan, if you would flip to page 3, again, it's a $5 million loan that we're looking to enter into with annual debt service right around $310,000 annually over the life of the loan. So with that being said, it's our recommendation this evening that you ratify the results that the Building Authority approved earlier today, contingent on your approval, to move forward with the Synovus 20-year rate at 2.07%. It's fixed. It's not subject to change between now and closing. Allows for prepayment, the maximum prepayment flexibility, and there's no additional closing costs. So the next page just outlines the next steps. Tonight, you guys will allow us to move forward. Rob and Jim and their team will start the validation process. Here we had the hearing the week of Christmas, but apparently the judges don't like to work on Christmas either. So we're scheduled that for, I think, the 18th. And we're looking to close before the end of the year on the 27th. And with that, I'll answer any questions. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be in front of you this evening. It's great to allow Davenport to serve as your financial advisor, and thanks to Pam and Angelica and her staff for all the hard work that they've done to allow us to move forward and answer all the questions to allow the banks to put forward competitive bids. So thank you again.
Ms. Gephardt, first, thank you for your patience. And second, it's kind of good to see some of our money stay in a local banking institution as well. Any questions regarding the, Counselor Thomas?
This bond is in order for us to purchase the Virginia College building and redo it. It's my understanding that we have until the middle of February sometime to do our due diligence to make the final decision on whether or not we actually want to do that. And it's also my understanding that if we decide not to go through with that, there will be some cost to us for the bond and the issuance and those kinds of things. I'm not going to hold you to this except as a ballpark figure. Can you give us a ballpark figure of what we might be looking at in those kinds of?
Absolutely. So right now, of the $5 million loan, we're estimating the cost of issuance to be right around $100,000. There would be some accrued interest that would accrue between December 27th, the scheduled closing, and mid-February. But what you are able to do is to invest the bond proceeds to help offset that cost. So right now, we're paying at a 2.07. Angelica said the Georgia Fund 1 of last month was earning about a 1.9%. So you're really not paying that much of interest costs. So you would really only be losing the cost of issuance associated with that because there's no prepayment penalty.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for all your work. Councilor Woodson.
Yes, sir, it's just on another matter. I'd like to ask the clerk to record my votes for item 1 through 3 and item 8. Thank you.
All right.
Want me to officially call this item?
Yeah, I mean, we need a motion to approve item 9.
Item 9 on our agenda would ratify the bond resolution adopted earlier by the Columbus Building Authority authorizing issuance of maximum principal amount $5 million bonds for purchase of the facility 5601 Veterans Parkway.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion? Now, if you'd cue it for us, please. Council, you can register your votes. We're missing one more. No, we got them all. All right, that passes.
Okay. Well, that's all we had listed, Mayor. But gentlemen, thank y'all for being here. Mr. Purnell.
Thank you guys again.
Mr. McKenna and Mr. Gebhardt. Mayor, Councilor Woodson wanted to make a request for a reconsideration of that, I think it was the Film Commission vote where she wanted to participate. Could we possibly call that back?
Yeah, we'd need somebody who voted in favor to ask that it be revisited. So there's a motion.
The Film Commission.
We need a second.
Is that on today's?
No, it was last meeting.
Second. And to be clear, all we're doing is to bring it back up for another vote so that it can be a unanimous vote, I believe.
Right.
Are we bringing them all three back? Are you going to vote the same way for all three of them, or do we have to?
It was just one,
all
wasn't
three
it?
of them back?
It was just one resolution, I believe.
About the film industry.
Film Commission, Film Fund.
Yeah, for the,
So it looks like.
No, from the last meeting.
all right. Okay, and there is a motion and a second to the motion. Councilor Garrett?
I'd like to make a or ask for somebody to make a motion to allow me to abstain because I'm on the board of a private film company.
All right, there's a request from Councilor Garrett. There's a motion to allow Councilor Garrett to abstain. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right. Now, we've got that item back on, so do we need another motion and a second?
Just to pass the appropriation, I think it was
Okay,
500,000 again.
So we'll entertain a motion to approve the payment of $500,000 into the film fund. Motion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All right, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? There's one abstention.
That's right. That has passed with one abstention. That's all we had, Mayor.
Okay. We'll move into the public agenda. Mr. Kerry McCraney regarding parking on city property, sewers, manholes, and window tint on automobiles. Is Mr. McCraney here? Doesn't appear so. We'll move on to Ms. Phoebe Dawson regarding Columbus Social Services remaining at present location to make these services available for easy client access. Welcome, Ms. Dawson. What we'll do is you'll have 5 minutes to make your comments, and if at the all right, well then we don't have to worry about the rest of my little preamble. If you would state your name and give us your address, please.
My name is Phoebe Dawson, and my address is 1191 Mayo Road, Ellerslie, Georgia. I had the privilege of graduating from the University of Georgia with a master's in social work, specializing in social planning and community organization. Also completed the coursework at Atlanta University for a master's in public administration. In addition, I attended an urban planning institute at Georgia Tech. A change in my life hindered me from pursuing a career in planning for people and starting to serve people. And I served people in this community and still serve people in this community. And based on my education and my involvement with the serving of people in this community, I can say that with all sincerity that Columbus should be commended for having the Health and Human Services building with all of the services located in the same place. That is a wonderful, it was a wonderful idea that several people worked on 25 years ago for 3 years in order to come up with a plan that would meet the needs of the people in this community, and especially the indigent. And my area where I have been mostly concerned about is families in crisis, particularly those who have been impacted by an unplanned pregnancy. The services that are now available at the Human Service Complex, particularly those services that are provided by the Health Department, are critical for people who cannot provide their own transportation or who have to use public transportation to get to these services. I have used public transportation here as well as in Atlanta. I rode the buses and the trains in order to get to places because I didn't have transportation. And now we're dealing with people who have to utilize the services of the health department who often use public transportation, particularly those with children who have to go to the health department and get their shots. A woman has to go to the health department to get proof of pregnancy in order to be able to get public DFACS services from DFACS. And having all of those services in the same place makes it easier for the clients to access those services. And the fact that they are there, Columbus has communicated a message that they care about the poor people in this city. They care about the people who need these services. And so I am here to appeal to the council to leave those services intact as they are, all in the same place. See, I did it in 2 minutes.
Close. Ms. Dawson, thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate it. And I'm sure council will take that under advisement. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Can I give you a copy of my books?
I wish you would. That'd be great. Thank you.
Also information about how I'm serving in this community.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for allowing me.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to the city manager's agenda. Mr. City Manager, you want to hit you?
Thank you, Mayor. I've just got a couple of things. I've got 2 purchases. The first is comprehensive generator services, asking you to authorize the execution of an annual contract with Taylor Power Systems for comprehensive generator services. It's an estimated contract of $184,797 on an as-needed basis, and the contract is for maintenance and repair services for 32 generators at various locations throughout the city. Asking your approval. Yes, sir.
Motion in a second. Go ahead, sir.
Purchase of bomb suit with helmet and accessories. This is $32,173. It will be worn by bomb technicians of the Office of Homeland Security. We're asking your approval.
All right. We have a motion and second to approve items A and B. Any discussion or anybody want one of those pulled? All right. If you would, cue it. And councilors, you can register your votes, please. And those 2 items pass.
So I've got just a couple of updates left, Mayor and Council, and I want to apologize for Mr. Will Bergen and to Betsy Covington. They are here on the Vibrant and Connected Metrics tool. They did a news conference a couple of weeks ago, and they're here to brief council and those watching by television. And then following them, I've got a Blight Index pilot program, Director John Hutchison, and then Government Center public meeting update, which is going to be very brief, Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge. So we're going to hear from President and CEO of Columbus Community Foundation, Betsy Covington, and Will Bergen.
You can't shake us off. We'll stick it out.
We're glad we can. Thank you for waiting.
We're all here doing the same business. I appreciate y'all's commitment to our community. I am here tonight as a proud volunteer of Columbus 2025, where I serve as their incoming chair and currently as chair of the Vibrant and Connected Places Action Area. The work of the Vibrant and Connected Places Action Area makes life better here for all of us, both those who live in our region now and those who will hopefully be attracted to this region by the work that we're doing. That Vibrant and Connected Places celebrates the fantastic work being done to build beautiful, inclusive, cool places for gathering, walking, and biking, shopping, getting to know each other. We love spaces along the Chattahoochee River. We love the bustling and walkable uptown area. We love our beautiful parts of Midtown, South Columbus, North Columbus, Phoenix City, and other parts of our region. We realized early on in this work that quality of life and quality of place have a central role to play in community and economic development. Research has shown us that regions with high levels of community attachment tend to do better economically than those where residents don't feel a strong connection with the place where they live. Among the top factors that influence attachments are things like community aesthetics, so how a place looks, and social offerings, things to do, places to gather, what's seen as vibrancy. The success of Uptown Columbus and the praise it gets from area residents in every survey over the last 10 years suggests that we're hungry for more vibrant neighborhoods and corridors. But how do we measure both the potential for improvement in vibrancy and the return on investment that those improvements produce? As we look to make smart decisions, and as you look to make smart decisions with public money, but also with our community's philanthropic investments, we realized that some measurement tool was called for. It seemed like a smart way also to begin to use data that we knew was being collected by the City of Columbus in an open way that lets all of us see the results. So we thought, no problem, we'll just find some city that has done this well and we'll copy what they've done. But we realized quickly that nobody else seems to be measuring this stuff. Other cities just intrinsically know that beautiful, accessible, cool places to be are good for citizens and good for the economies of the places where they live. But that is not good enough for us at Columbus 2025. We want data that will help us know the ways in which investments we're making are going to pay off, and that'll help develop our expectations for the investments we choose to make next. So happily, through some of the city building connections of our committee members, we learned about Fourth Economy Consulting, a group out of Pittsburgh that, I love this, they equip change agents with the tools to build better communities and stronger economies. We thought that sounded kind of perfect. They were willing to work with us to develop what is now groundbreaking work to measure vibrancy, connectivity, and the return on investment that can be improved, that can be produced by improvements to both. This is important to all of us because it helps us assess our investment and make better investment decisions for the future. So the results, we believe, will be a much more beautiful set of linked communities that are accessible, inclusive, and welcoming places to be for all of our citizens. We've been helped in this process by a grant from the Knight Foundation Fund at the Community Foundation, and we've had wonderful support and lots of willing partners in this process, including all the members of our Action Areas Metrics Committee and a lot of members of the public who filled out questionnaires and wrote all over maps and came to public meetings. We could not have accomplished this project without the immense support of both Mayor Skip Henderson and our city manager, Isaiah Hughley. They've not only given us their blessing, but they've given us access to and have encouraged the support from so many different city departments. Thank you for being willing to work together and to work with us. So to dive in, and we'll be quick on this, but this is important because we believe that this is a tool that you can use to help you make good decisions in the future. I'm going to turn things over to Will Bergen of Jackson Bergen here in our community. He has spent countless hours on this work as chair of our Vibrant and Connected Places Metrics Committee. And Will, we really appreciate your work. And I will quietly walk around.
Thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Council, Mayor. I appreciate your time, and we are going to move fairly quickly through this because my encouragement for you is to get to the data and to go see what it is that we've been working on. And there are a couple caveats. This is the beginning of what we're working on. The idea that open data and the ability for us to empower decisions through things like this is something that will take time to fully tell the picture, time to correctly describe what all is going on in the community, and moreover, as we make changes, as we see the effects, time to see how our good work turns into a vibrant and connected space. So I'm going to quickly just tell you about what we did. We had a process that we went through. We did some baseline research, Fourth Economy and others. We reached out and we understood what was going on in our community. We looked at past plans, most of what our planning department does, all of what our planning department does, and to include other plans that other consultants came in. We reviewed all of that to make certain that we were capturing those things. We engaged the community. We went out into the community to see what their thoughts were, and then we created what we're calling the pilot framework and the dashboard. Pilot framework is good to note because there's a lot of revision and a lot of 2.0 coming our way. This is the beginning for us to be able to solicit feedback. Betsy's right, we had 14 questions on a survey. We collected 512 responses, and 83 people gave us their permission to use their location as to where they were coming from. And the neat thing is we heard from all of Columbus. Community meetings, we had 3 of them. We had over 100 participants at each of the meetings, and we had 8 interactive activities at the time. And from that, we were able to clearly see that there were 4 areas that people wanted us to talk about: activities, events and culture, neighborhood amenities, mobility and transportation, and safety and health, and that became our vibrant and connected dashboard. Specifically, the activities, events, and culture really looks to look at our activities, the frequency that we're having them, and where they occur. We're also tracking visitor data in a number of different ways to see where do people come from and how do they interact with us. And then also mapping the cultural events, things that are going on in other communities, so that we can see how trails and bikes and other mobility efforts affect these things. Mobility and transportation, we map the routes, the ridership, the various investments that we're making, from painted bike lanes to dedicated bike lanes, and even sidewalks, getting that information in. We're looking at ways that people flow in and out of school and home and community, and how they can get around in these places. We looked at GDOT traffic information, making certain that we can see where hotspots and concerns would be using the automobile. And then we're also looking at other ways to connect these things in a more robust fashion. The neighborhood amenities, businesses, we're looking at where do people work, where do they have to travel to go to work, how do they get there. We're looking at our employment trends, where do we see people moving into, and what are the trends going on. And then likewise, the parcels, the assessments, and the sales, trying to bring in data as to how our areas are generating tax revenue, how our areas are growing and thriving. Local surveys, and making certain that we reflect what people want in these areas. And lastly, safety and health. That is very important to most everybody, making certain that they have a good and safe space to be in, but then also the health. How are they able to take care of themselves and their children? The dashboard is meant to show the positive things, but at the same time, we've got to be very clear-eyed about where we have concerns. And so when it comes to safety and health, crime data and other things need to be present there as well, so that we know where to direct resources and speak to those areas. The dashboard itself can be found at www.vibrantandconnectedcolumbus.com. The website at Columbus 2025 will be updated with this link, and I would encourage each of you to go see it. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Any question? Yeah, we've got Councilor Crabb.
Thank you, Will. I have a question. Is there an app in our future?
It's a good question.
Is there an app in our
The website itself is dynamic, so you can go on any screen and make certain that you can see everything. I do recommend a larger map as you look at some of the fine detail, a larger screen to look at some of the fine detail. But at the same time, I think that Columbus has got a good story to tell, and I think more folks, we're getting a lot of interest in the ways that people can display their activities on this same portal and show the good work that they're doing in places.
Okay, did you hear me right? I said app, A-P-P, not M-A-P.
Oh, you're right. And the app is a little small on a phone. The map in the app would be small.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Woodson.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you give, for me and those watching, an example of how this will be used? Like, for example, we're doing a lot of development in the uptown, up north, different parts, but how would this affect a community itself? Like, for instance, let's say I've been talking a lot with the mayor and the city manager about quarters, quarters we have coming into our city. Some of them, they need a beautification because people pass it or go around it when they can actually go there. And so I'm wondering how does this work in addressing those things to ensure that the activities, the event, the cultures that are in neighborhoods? Because now I hear a lot, and the mayor does too, where people are saying, we like everything you're doing, but what are you doing in my backyard?
That's right. And so take one of the examples that I really like is the full vision of the Dragonfly Trail System. Something that will allow people, whether they have a car or not, whether it's for exercise or for their career, to be able to access and be able to flow into other areas of town and to reach up into the technology park and to other places where we are incentivizing businesses to locate. And then all of the little restaurants and all of the shops that are along that corridor, along that spine, are places that people can locate, can find a good piece of real estate and actually make an investment and grow their business. and then know where the traffic is coming from and how that can go. So that's a very quick way to go and learn about the Dragonfly Trail. But the other story that in time, as this tool gets more robust, as we add data and years to the technique, we'll be able to see things like revenues and property values increase. We'll be able to see how those businesses and those investments begin to pay off, both for the local folks in their return on their investment in their personal homes or in their business, but then us as a city, as a community, to know that the investment in the infrastructure of these sort of things like trails and improved intersections and walkways can also mean that we're growing our population, growing our revenue, and growing the businesses and the lifestyles of the people who live here. And the tool in time is going to be able to show how these little investments that we make today prove to be beneficial in the long run.
Okay, so, in saying that, and I know the city manager's gonna scrunch, but that's okay. In saying that, like the South Lumpkin Road that I've been for years, there are a lot of businesses there that have come and gone. There are a lot of small businesses that don't have the resources or don't really know how to improve it. You know, the corridor, the way it looks, and that is the main corridor, because you're talking, it goes in the infantry, it goes to Oxbow Meadow, it goes now to Westville. You know, that's what I'm talking about. And you have the small business there that come and go, where it needs something like this, because we have the walk trails, but the walk trail is behind our homes. It's not on the main road. So if you go on the Riverwalk or the Dragon Trail, you're not going to see those businesses. You're not going to see that, because you're going to run into the beautiful waters, you know, Rigdon Park. If you keep going, Oxbow Meadows, the golf course, you'll run into that. You're actually not going to run into where the businesses are. And that's what I was asking, without going in that avenue. Can this tool help to do that?
The quick answer is yes.
Okay.
And in the fullness of time is when that story will be best told.
Okay.
But that being said, a tool like this will give you the opportunity to point out the existence of the trail. And then we can look at the underperforming property values, at which point in time, Counselor, you can come in and say, we'd like to have a targeted change to this area. We'd like to open up an access point, so to speak, from the trail to bring people into in front of these businesses and get them to come past. And I don't know what the activation may be, but let's say it's a 5K or a pop-up shop or a food truck festival or something that you might want to do to activate it. Through the data and through tracking it, we'll be able to see, was it effective? Did we see an increase in the business sales? Do we see an interest in the change of those properties, whether it's long-term leases or total sales or whatever else? And then we'd be able to then do similar things in other places, or make a temporary connection more permanent with a vision. But not all places need the exact same treatment either. So we'd be able to look at this sort of data and decide what is right for this location to make the best use of its space. It could be a traffic circle, it could be sidewalks, it could be street trees, it could even be a stoplight. Little tactical things this system should highlight, because one size does not necessarily fit all. So making certain that we address the needs of the people in the zone and do what's right for there is how we hope to make this tool most useful.
Okay, well, thank you. I pulled it up. I'm looking at it now.
Good.
You know, and if I can add, I'm certain I'm about to unintentionally demonstrate just how little I know about technology, but in an organization I worked with before was really getting into the accumulation of data, owning the data and integrating AI with it. And the interesting thing about that, to answer your question in a far off
Farm.
Yeah. Eventually, if we capture and collect and own our data, the only limits of what it can be used for will be set by our imagination. I mean, you can, from what I understand, you can, once you gather enough data about the unique characteristics of an area like Oakland Park, then you can look for other areas that share those characteristics. You can merge that data, and it'll tell you what some of the productive triggers are. I've already exceeded my knowledge, but I just know that the first step is gathering the data, having those points where you can do that. And then ultimately, we'll be having to evaluate whether or not it's worth the cost to purchase or develop our own artificial intelligence to help us get down in the weeds with that stuff. Quit laughing, John.
No, that's good to know, because I'm pretty sure a lot of my colleagues are getting the same, phone calls and questions asked. It's great that we're doing all this, but what are you doing in my backyard? And so this is the reason why I asked, because it sounds really good, but wanted to compare. How would that compare with what are you doing in my backyard?
That's right. And so the tool is really meant to get this information out, but at the same time, we're already planning how we can refine and better elaborate on these things. The data that we're collecting and the ability for Columbus to share is really remarkable. And at the same time, asking the right questions. We may have some information, but it's not quite the right information. So as we can meet with other department heads and get them to change one or two questions or ask a slightly different one, then we can even get more information and be able to better understand the needs of the area. And so this is an ongoing process. John Hutchison is a good person. He's going to come in front and speak about something he's been working on. But in our case, we took his work product, because it's already very good, and we just put a frame around it. So his work is in the metrics tool because it is already able to show so much of what his department is doing. So you can even go on our tool and tunnel right into what he's been working on. And that's the sort of collaboration that we really want to champion as this continues.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Bergen. I was in a group a couple of days ago and was talking about the meetings that we had about the SPLOST. And one of the people in the group said, well, when were those meetings and where were those? I didn't hear anything about it. And I said, well, where should we have put this in order for you to hear about it? We thought we put it all over the world. My question to you is, where did you put this information? How did you get the public meeting information out? Where did you hold those meetings? Can you give us maybe an example of some of the questions that you asked? How did you go about doing that to get some results on this?
So the survey was largely online, so we were able to circle and circulate that. The public meetings were important to be had, and we really thought about different demographic areas in order to get a wide spectrum. We had a meeting with our young professionals based out of the Chamber of Commerce, hoping to get some millennials engaged in the process, somebody who would really be interested in looking at the way technology could be used. To that end, we've got a lot of support out of the Columbus 2025 initiative at both CSU and Columbus Technical College. And they've got people in their demographic and in their data analysis, and they participated in this. They created an app to help us do sidewalk evaluations and curbside information. And so being able to meet with them, because as we want to get better and robust data, we can use CSU students to go out and collect data as long as it's geolocated, so we know where they're standing when they look at broken sidewalks or concerns or pinch points. So we got them involved. We actually went and had several classes at Columbus Tech met with us, and they participated in this. And I think that is really the most telling area where we engaged, because those students don't necessarily get approached for this kind of research or this kind of conversation. And so I think they were, to be quite blunt, they were a little fascinated that we wanted to know what they thought. And the Columbus Technical College, I thought, was really evidence, because we got a lot of input on walking, biking, and multimodal transportation. They talked about how they need to take buses and the schedules and the importance of having these connections and the timing of this, and things like being able to create an app Counselor, I'm thinking about an app now, creating an app to know when the buses are and when they're going to arrive and where they'll make their connections. And that is something that I know Metra's already on board with and the city is already working on, but this adds fuel to that. So going to the question you didn't actually ask, but I was thinking about as you were doing it, places like this dashboard can be a good spot for people to understand how they can engage in their community. And when they engage, how the results should be reported back out. And so to that end, I think that going forward, as people have a question of how effective is this, are we making the right changes, or where are these investments, this will be a spot for us collectively to report and then see how we do, a scorecard of sorts.
Thank you. And what were some of the questions that you asked? You said you had 14 questions on this public survey.
We did. We asked, and I actually cut them out of your presentation because I was trying to be brief. And I didn't even bring them with me. But we did ask about places like, where do you feel comfortable walking at night? Where do you take people when they're visiting? If you were to make what would you like to have represented if you could pick something? Sidewalks, street trees, bicycle lanes, a restaurant, better bus routes. These are some of the things, prioritizing those things. And interestingly, the number one, and this should not surprise anybody, the number one reported thing was safety. Safety trumped everything almost by a 2-to-1 margin amongst everything else. And so when people are looking for the ways we can make them safe, this was one of the big metrics. So we took all of those answers and we formulated the 4-point dashboard, which is why health and safety is its own standalone entity. Safety was something people wanted us to speak on and be very clear about.
Well, it certainly sounds like you asked the right types of questions to the right types of folks. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any more questions?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to thank our guest for being here, and Columbus would not be the Columbus that we have were it not for the public-private partnerships and Community Foundation and Knight Foundation and so forth. And you're the chair of the Community Foundation?
I am, yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, I've got Blight Index Pilot Program Director John Hutchison.
Good evening, Council. I'll try to be brief. One of our things that we typically get beat up for as government is in general that we tend to be more reactive to what's going on as opposed to being proactive. What I wanted to do is we've been working with CSU. This year is our 3rd year working. We typically get a CSU intern to come in to kind of help us work on some, not necessarily pet projects of mine, but ideas I have that we'll be able to can have somebody devote full time to it. 2 years ago, we did a BZA map, which is still active on our site today, so if people want to see the properties that have variances on them, they can check those. Last year, we had intern Tashara come in and help us with the COs, and that's what got me down the path, Council House, on the personal care homes, because we actually had somebody that could sit down and sorted all that information, broke it all down for us, so we could then start taking those necessary steps as to this needs to be enforced here, this needs to be this and that. And so this year, we were like, well, we're looking at blight in the community. And so, unfortunately, when people see me, I'm the bad guy. So I'm coming in for tearing your house down, or I got to cut your grass, or you got to get rid of this junk vehicle. But there's lots of other properties that don't quite get to my desk, but they do need attention. And so we wanted to move with this project, and we were fortunate enough to get 2 interns this year. So we were able to kind of move forward and fast track the properties and to be able to at least look at them as vacant structures. They hadn't made it to my property maintenance list and they hadn't made it to my demo list, but maybe these properties can be saved, or a developer is interested and knows that they are vacant and there may be an opportunity for them to get involved. So I'll kind of let Charlotte go over the project, and then we'll have our 2 interns kind of come up and talk about their experience.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Mr. City Manager. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited today to talk to you about something I truly love in my profession. It's mapping. And so anyway, as John was saying, we decided to do a blight index data collection project. So with the blight index, what I mean is sort of a survey of the vacant properties, because vacant properties often become blighted. And so this was, as John was saying, a proactive means of collecting this data in our community. So we framed our study based on a study from the city of Mobile. I got in contact with their GIS department. I framed my study after that study. We were able to, as John said before, collaborate with CSU. I'd like to thank Dr. Reese and Dr. Huff from the Department of Geography for allowing us to have our interns to help with this data collection. Also, we chose Midtown. That actually segues into the next slide. We chose Midtown as the place for data collection because it is socioeconomically diverse, it's centralized, it's quite extensive. I mean, we drove around Midtown for weeks, and so anyway, we didn't realize how big this area is. It also encompasses 5 different council districts, so we were able to cover a lot of bases there. We were able to utilize an app, our collector for ArcGIS, and anyway, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my GIS coordinator, Scott Evans, and the GIS analyst, Brian Lackey. Both of them were there to help me just in case I have questions. This is what I love to do, but I don't have all the answers, so they definitely helped me out. So as far as going out in the field is concerned, if technology permits, we'll go ahead and have this available. Here we are. So this is the actual map that we used. So what we did, we basically dropped points in areas where we thought, or properties that we reasonably thought were vacant. And so anyway, if you look at the red dots there, those are the data points that we collected. We were able to capture data in a survey style, a yes-no survey style, like is it a vacant lot? Is it a vacant structure? Is there peeling paint or fascia? Solid waste, tall grass? It was just an entire questionnaire. So many of you might be familiar with the Code Case Dashboard, which is another map that our department utilizes. It's on the Inspections and Code main website, and it shows all the property maintenance properties and the demolition properties. So we had that data and we filtered that into this application. So if we saw that there was a property that was already written up on property maintenance or condemned demolition, the point was to be proactive. We already knew about those properties, so we dropped points at the new properties that we found. Also, if it was vacant, we wound up just dropping a point. And so that includes commercial structures, that includes residential structures, that includes vacant lots. Also, if it was just a house for sale, even a really nice house for sale, if it was vacant, we tagged it. And so we have a few pictures from us in the field. Basically, they did most of the legwork. I drove the truck. And so anyway, or the Jeep. Yes, the Jeep Wrangler, Jeep Grand Cherokee. I digress. Anyhow, we had a great time. As you can see, these properties, as John was saying, they're not bad enough to be on the property maintenance list or the condemned demo list, but they may become a blighted area later. There's a commercial property with tall grass, boarded up. That's not technically a code violation. Just because something's vacant doesn't mean it's a code violation. And it's boarded up, it's secured, but it's vacant. So I will hand this over to Derringer to give his account of what he learned.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Derringer Kwiatnik. I have a bachelor's in geology, working towards a GIS certification, all at CSU. As you can see, out of the 395 points that we have surveyed in the Midtown area, 292 are vacant structures, 103 were vacant lots. By working with people in this, on this project, to experienced people, I've learned to store data, organize it, manage it, collect it, work it how I want to, as well as present that information to a general audience. And so with that, I will introduce my good friend, Kevin Fabry, to talk about town ownership.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As Darren just already introduced me, my name is Kevin Fabry. I am a graduate student working on my master's in history. As we have discussed, we mapped over 395 properties. From these properties, 292 we were able to determine were owned by in-town owners. These were people who live in Columbus and the neighboring communities of Midland, Fort Benning, and so on. 101 of these properties were owned by out-of-town owners, and 2 properties we determined were owned by Georgia Power Utility Company. From this project, I've been able to develop a lot of professional skills and gain a lot of wealth of experience with several wonderful people, both in the Columbus government and Columbus State, that I'm glad to call friends, and I hope to help develop a political career in the future. I will hand this back over to Charlotte to continue.
Thank you. All right, so I would like to also take this opportunity to thank Midtown Inc., Julio Portillo, and all the board members of Midtown Inc. I would also like to thank my boss, Director John Hutchison. Thank you for letting me map things, and thank you for letting me go out into the field and test said maps. So, and thank you so much for having me. What questions do you have?
Counselor, got a few questions here, Charlotte. Counselor Huff?
Comments. Thank you so much for your presentation. I actually was riding around my district and places looking, and I saw you all out. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't make any phone calls. I just came back through later to see if you were still around. So I thought possibly a group from out of town interested in investing in our community. Didn't know, but it's nice to see how it all turned out. And I thank you for your time, your effort, and your team.
Thank you.
Counselor Thomas?
Can you tell me about how long did it take you to do this particular study?
Well, the interns actually had this as their class, their internship for their advanced GIS class, so we had a few weeks, so 8 weeks maybe. And so we had 2 days of data collection per week on average. So we started in September and we ended in the first week of November.
I was asking, in the event that we want to expand this across the city, you know, what kind of timeline are we looking at to get all of this data? And then are you, for example, the 292 properties that are owned by a Columbus resident, are you looking at any way to keep up with when and if those change hands? Or is that something that's completely beyond this study?
Well, the tax parcel map updates that. And so typically when we deal with these properties, like I said, these are the ones that hadn't quite got bad enough. Typically the ones that are in our property maintenance or demo cases, every 30 days, we're going back out there checking the ownership, checking for changes in the property. So these are kind of not so bad. The intent, kind of our final piece of it, is to actually assign each property a score based off of how bad everything is on it weighed together. So say if the broken windows, or they have a for sale sign, or they have disconnected utilities, all of those weigh, so that property may score a 60, and they may have other properties scoring 80. So then if a developer is interested, the intention is to kind of piggyback this to our land bank authority. So they'll have these properties, they'll have scores of said properties that are in various levels of not quite to get torn down and not quite for demo, but they'll be able to have a map to start with. Because a lot of these properties we knew, you know, if you look at an aerial, you can say, okay, these are structures, but we didn't know if the structures were occupied. So for us going by to provide that extra layer on the field, people looking at every parcel, we could say, okay, well, that property is occupied and that property is not occupied. So then that owner may be interested in selling. They may not. We don't know, but the land bank will be able to take that information and then take that next step to potentially purchase it and get it into somebody else's hands.
Thank you.
Charlotte, and John, I just want to tell you how excited I am about what you guys are doing, and to the gentleman from CSU, outstanding work. This is going to dovetail. It probably within the next 90 days, you'll hear of some initiatives that we plan on rolling out for 2020 from the mayor's office, and this fits perfectly into some of the things that we are going to be undertaking. So the work that you've done in the form of interning and just trying to get your arms around what's out there is going to be a very important cog, I think, in going forward. And the city manager and I have talked about a number of issues, and so I'm excited by this. This is just great work.
So Mr. Mayor and Council, I was kind of bragging about how bright John Hutchison is, and people were listening, and they said, "You don't know Charlotte Davis, do you?" I said, "No, I don't know Charlotte." They said, "Well, those are the brains behind John. John's just the guy. He's just the guy out front." And now they reveal and bring forward these interns, and now I see it's actually the CSU interns that's making Charlotte, and she's making John look good, and so now it's all out in the open. But thank you guys, great work, and Mayor and Council, we've got, other millennials in this government. They are doing this kind of work that we just don't know about, and that we're going to know about in the coming months. But Charlotte, they brag on her all the time. And so, Charlotte, absolutely. So I want to thank you, and but we've got some great millennial employees in this government.
We are gonna start fining you for every time you say millennial. I think we'll solve our budget issues. Councilor Woodson has a question.
Yes, first of all, thank you very much. And Charlotte, it's awesome to see a female up there and talking and then showing what talents you have. So it's very exciting.
Thank you.
Very exciting. And I like your enthusiasm. It's wonderful. It's refreshing and gives hope to the future. So thank you. And John, you're the man. We don't have to tell you. And to CSU, I have the highest respect for CSU. CSU is so much in our community. It's unbelievable that people don't even know how much you have your hands on. Every time I'm in the community, I find out a new project you're doing. You're almost like the city government. CSU is in our community on all the hands that you have, projects that are touching people's life. And I just want to say thank you also. John, I was just wondering, I think this is great. I'm going to tell you go in my district and get it for me. But I also wanted to know, because we have that problem quite often, is there a way, and I don't know, I'm just thinking, okay, is there a way now that we know how many properties are people out of town, that we can kind of communicate more and get a better handle on making them responsible for the properties they own in Columbus? Can this help us? Can we generate something? Is there an ordinance we can adjust to help with that? Because we have a lot of out-of-town property owners that, unfortunately, some are good and some will say, I don't care.
Well, when I typically go to conferences, I get different ideas from different areas, and some of the other cities that I've observed, it's just sometimes the tone in the letter or in the notification that's sent to them affects how they respond. So if you're like, if you don't fix this, we're gonna come in, okay. They'll play our bluff and say, hey, I bet you, and then we're putting liens and that on the property. But I've seen a few other cities, like we started doing door hangers now when we go to people's houses to say, hey, sorry we missed you, call us back, as opposed to red tag on your door, you know, dangerous for citation. And so I think sometimes it comes with the approach, and we're starting to find out that, obviously that the old saying goes, you can get more bees with honey, is to try to say, hey, we're not here as the bad guys to tear your property down. We just want you to cut your grass. We just want you to get that junk car out of the yard. We just want you to pick up the trash, you know. And so it's starting to kind of turn. We do have communications with almost the majority of the owners. We have a few that, you know, they're going to push us to that limit, and we're going to have to go cut that grass, and we're going to have to do what we need to do. But a lot of them now, we're kind of collaborating a lot better, so it's not as us against them. It's like, okay, well, you're a part of this community too, whether you're in it or out of it. You own property in Columbus, so you do have a responsibility. So we're trying to kind of change the tone of some of our notices and letters, so therefore we get a little better compliance, because people, you know, typically just saying a citation or listing a section of code that they don't understand, they don't really know what they're violating. They're just getting a letter in the mail, and we can say, oh, well, I sent you a letter, now here comes the fine. And a lot of them don't know really what they're violating. So some of them will call, some of them won't. Like I said, Charlotte, and they take calls from all day long about people that they do get our letters, and then they don't know what happened or what do we do next. So we're slowly trying to soften some of the things. And there's still stuff there, there's violations and violations, but we're trying to kind of come a different way with the tone on the notices.
Well, that's great. I appreciate it. It's funny that you say that, because I was talking to the mayor earlier today, and I was talking to Donna last week, and I said, you know, sometimes we have to approach people differently, and you just confirmed that. Sometimes we say the same thing over and over, and it's not registering, but when we use an example and we show people and we use different terminology, it tends to work. So thank you very much. I truly appreciate it.
We're from the government. We're here to help, right?
There you go.
Councilor Allen, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I can't either. I want to piggyback on something the city manager said, you know, talking about the younger folks helping us out. And I think all of us have said at one time or another, talking to our constituents, that, you know, we're not building this city for us. We're building it for you. And to see these young men in Charlotte energized and helping set us up so that we can continue to move forward is amazing. I mean, when I graduated CSU, back then it was Columbus College, with my degree in urban planning and development, what a long way CSU has come since then. It's just amazing to see the growth. And Charlotte, thank you for all your work. And John is brilliant. He surrounds himself with those people that make him look good.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I think that's all, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Neil. And the final update, it's a very brief one on the Government Center public meetings.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will be brief. This is just an update on the Government Center, the capital projects meetings that we had. Just to remind you of the timeline that we're working towards. We're still in that first series of public meetings that was held to move forward with the 2020 SPLOST on the November 3rd, 2020 ballot. As we're moving forward, the next round of public meetings will start in March with the council presentation in July, a council resolution at the end of July, and so the call for election would be on August the 4th to begin collections April 1st of 2021. This was the 8 public meetings that we had, one in each of the council districts at the various locations to gain input from the citizens on not just the Government Center, but other capital projects that they feel is necessary in their particular district or within the city of Columbus. As far as the Government Center planning process, we're still moving forward with that. The design team, that contract was awarded in November, so we're staying with this timeline. As we're moving forward, we're evaluating the CM at risk contracts that will come back to council in January, and we've also issued the project management proposal to have that vendor on board sometime in February. For our immediate next steps is to launch the capital projects input survey online for citizen input. We received 31 surveys from the public meetings that we held, So we didn't get a large response to those surveys, but I have had questions about when the survey will be available online. So hopefully we can get that out through all of our social media platforms to get more input from the citizens, and we hope to have that up within the next week. And we'll make sure that we notify council so that you can distribute it to each of your sites, social media, email addresses to get as much input as we can on those capital projects. The next immediate step that we're undertaking, our consultant that was awarded the design services contract will be here tomorrow and Thursday, meeting with each one of those court and administrative offices in the government center to evaluate their space needs assessment. They've distributed a survey to all of those individual departments and offices for them to complete, and they'll be meeting with them. We have 2 teams coming through both Wednesday and Thursday of this week to meet with each one of those offices and departments to review their survey so they can come back with recommendations on the space needs assessment as we move forward with the planning process for the government center. So everything is moving forward or still on our timeline that we had originally projected, and we'll continue to provide update to council as we meet each one of those steps. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the process or the survey.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Ms. Hodge, regarding the immediate next steps, you're talking about the consultant is looking at space needs. Does that include the judicial?
Yes, that's
side
the
of it?
judicial and the administrative offices that are currently in the government center as well as the annex to be able to provide that information to council if council chose to consolidate the administrative functions with those administrative folks at the annex. So they're looking at both of those 2 facilities.
And when I say judicial, I guess that expands to the sheriff and transferring inmates and that kind of thing.
We have meetings with all of the state court judges, superior court judges, district attorneys, solicitor general, juvenile court, sheriff's office, everybody in the government center as well as the annex.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, Ms. Hodge? Appears that's all.
Mayor, that concludes my agenda.
All right. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. For the clerk's agenda, items 1 and 2 are resolutions excusing Councilor Barnes and Huff.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? You're excused.
Item number 3 is the Personnel Review Board. We received an email correspondence from Mr. Charles Harp. He's resigning from his position on this board. Needs to be received.
Motion to receive with regrets. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Item number 4 is the email correspondence from Ms. Lauren Vance. She's requesting that the seats of Ms. Latasha Stevens Archibald, this is the District 3 representative, and Mr. Sean Souvenir, District 10, be declared vacant on the Recreation Advisory Board.
Move to declare seats for District 3 and 10 vacant.
Motion second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's
And since
approved.
this is a council district appointment, Councilor House is nominating Irene Pate for the District 10 representative, and she may be confirmed.
Second.
Motion second to confirm Ms. Pate. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? She's confirmed.
Next are minutes of various board.
There's a motion. Motion and a second to receive the minutes. Anybody have any questions or want to pull one out to discuss? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? They're received.
Next, we have board appointments. We have the mayor's appointments to the Convention and Visitors Board of Commissioners. The seat of Paul Pierce, he is the restaurant, retail, trade, industry seat. He's not eligible to serve another term of office. We also have the Housing Authority of Columbus. Mr. Mayor, I believe you're renominating Tiffany Stacy.
That's correct.
Will she be confirmed?
She can.
Yes, she may be confirmed.
Motion and a second to confirm Ms. Stacy. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? She's
We
confirmed.
also have the Pension Fund Employees Board of Trustees. Next, we have council appointments. The vote for the Airport Commission and the Board of Elections and Registration has been delayed. For the Hospital Authority of Columbus, the council submits 3 nominees for each seat. Next, we have council appointments. Any nominations would be listed for the next meeting. For the Commission on International Relations and Cultural Liaison Encounters, we have 2 seats that are open for nominations. We did receive a nominee form for Ms. Mewborn. She is interested in serving on Circle. For the Historic and Architectural Review Board, we have Ms. Katie Bishop. She serves in the at-large seat. She is eligible to succeed herself if a member of council wants to renominate her.
Motion
And
second
we,
to
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, we'll bring this back
bring it
for the
back.
next meeting.
Okay.
We also have Claire Berry with the Board of Realtors, and we will bring this, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, the next 2 seats, these are from the organization, and we will have to make
Yeah, might
contact
wanna
with the
reach out-
organization.
Might want to reach
for
out to
them.
the board.
And that's also for the seat of Tyler Allen. We will contact Uptown Columbus Business Association. For the seat of Shannon Smallman, this is an at-large seat, and she is eligible to succeed and is interested in serving.
I'll nominate her.
Okay. For the Personnel Review Board, we have the seat of Charles Little Jr. This is an alternate member not eligible to succeed. And we also have a vacant seat. These seats are open for nomination. We received a nominee form for Dr. Pettaway, who's interested in serving on this board, and in the vacant seat, the alternate member seat,
So she could be,
if a member of council wanted to nominate her.
okay.
Next, we have the Recreation Advisory Board. This is the District 6 appointment.
He can be
We-
confirmed, can he? Oh, he's the guy that's resigned, okay.
And then we have the Region 6 Regional Advisory Council, the seat of Edward Barnwell. It's open for nominations. Next, we have Tree Board, the seat of William Consoletti. He's not eligible to serve another term of office. And, I'm sorry. Sure.
Do you have an address for Dr. Pettaway's seat, which district she's in? Back on the Personnel Review Board.
I do have her address. I just don't,
It's not a designated seat, it's just a council appointment.
right.
Right, but I was just wondering if one of the council members wanted to reach out and talk to her before we nominate her. Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Councilor Kraft. Next, we have Brad Huff. This is the KCBC Director seat, and so we would recommend that Sharnae Ware Johnson, who is the new Keep Columbus Beautiful Director, serve in this seat.
Anybody want to nominate her? Since that's specifically designated, can we go ahead and confirm her?
We typically bring them back, but
You think there'll be another director next week? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, we'll bring it back.
we also have the seat of Jeremy Cummings. This is the Public Utilities Representative. He is eligible to succeed himself, and he is interested in serving.
I'll nominate.
And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, and have we, I know I've asked you, haven't we reached out to YP and maybe sent them some of these positions and asked them if there's anybody in particular that might be interested in them?
Well, what I did, Mr. Mayor, was attend a Get On Boards
Right.
event where the young professionals were
Yeah.
in attendance, and so
Okay.
I did reach out.
I think it might be
to-
helpful to, who's heading that up for the Chambers? Cindrika Lakes? I think she oversees the YP. Wouldn't hurt just to send those to her, tell her that they've gone a couple of weeks with no nominations, and ask them if they have anybody interested.
Sure. And the two nominees, there were two nominees that were presented tonight for
From
two of
that?
the boards.
Okay, good.
Those were young professionals
Good.
that were interested in serving,
I
so.
think that's good.
Mhm.
Just send her another reminder, and maybe let her know those positions are open.
We will do, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, any further business?
Will we adjourn?
Motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Anybody want to argue about it? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, we are adjourned.